Hello, lovelies. We are very excited to see you today. My name is Roger Molina here. I'm showing up on Sam Via's Chan because, I can. And I'm very honored to get invited to do this kind of stuff with him. So I want to turn out something really cool so that people don't think I'm weird, because I don't want that to happen. So we're going to do today the butterfly bob. It's kind of an oldie but goodie. It's been around about a year now. The video did really well. A few milli did. It did a few million. This is the video you're watching right now. You can see it. Turns around and it's like a graduation at the back, and then it's like this weird disconnected chop at the front, which actually is kind of my favorite part, even though it was the part that scared me the most. You see it right there on the side. And then you take the fringy and you give it a little twisty twirl, kind of old school. But the difference is that it kind of goes back up further than usual. And then on the top, this stuff gets directed up, elevated diagonal, forward, diagonal line. Then there's a drop that comes back over, which you can see gets cut off from that video. But I wanted to walk you through this kind of step by step, and instead of doing it all like strategic in a in a scissor, I'm gonna do it in a razor, because I feel like that's, it's a way to get a different dynamic to it. There was a lot of structure and strength in that one, but I like that. But let's switch it up, make it be softer. Yeah. So let's see how that goes. 3, 2, just kidding. Begin. As the video did, we're going to begin the graduation in the center back. It goes from the whorl, or like just beneath the crown, I suppose, all the way down to center back. Take about a finger's width of the line that goes through there. I'm just going to go with the standard, like this is the blade just alone, and direct it down. Find that graduation, and what I want to look for really is the line in which this jaw resides. So if that were to go up and chase up and create like a nice even round, this line will be the bottom part of that. So it's relatively tight here at the nape, and then I'm going to work my way out and up. So I'm going to actually go hands pointed up in the air and come from underneath and work that line up and out, cutting from the bottom to the top first. So I come from center section, and then when I move diagonally through that, I direct everything to the middle. It locks in the center. Stationary guide. If your fingers are only wide enough to take half, then start at the bottom, but drift yourself out to where you see your actual graduation, and grab the bottom half of that section. You're going to jump underneath, start at the same point, and work your way out and up. Stop when you're halfway. Check your hand and make sure that you don't have any long pieces getting weird, because there's probably a long piece getting weird on here. Look, I have one at the bottom. No long pieces getting weird. So work your way from the nape up to what would be the crown hair. Maintain a diagonal elevation, and everything is coming to a stationary guide in the center. Hopefully, Raj, is it? That's the desire. The desire is to get everything to the middle. So I work from left to right. You can see how I started at a center, then I pivot to there, and now I'm pivoting to the back of the ear. And then I'm going to direct this section right back to center again. And then I go not at the top, but come from the bottom under here. Work the bottom half of this first. Identify your graduation. So I'm going to turn this and follow that line down and see where it sits underneath, then grab it, move the top half of this section out of my way, and cut up at that exact line that I saw underneath. Second half of the section resides on the top, and I'll turn it to the side so you can get a side profile when we cut this second part. See my graduation underneath and see how it's building up. Essentially matches or mocks the exact rotation of the chin guide, so I can follow that. And see, I'll have little things underneath here that I want to clean up. Don't worry about it right now, leave it. Let's turn this to the side so we can get a profile view. We're gonna get this locked and this actually out of the way. And I pivot a diagonal section, work it to the center at a stationary guide. It helps on this side to put the fine teeth toward the bottom and then arc yourself down and look at where that graduation sits. You can see it sitting underneath there. So then I grab the top half, or rather the bottom, and then I cut that same graduated line. You can see it underneath there. Come from the bottom to the top. Over directed everything to the middle. Stationary guide to the center. From the bottom to the top. Not from the top to bottom. I want the weight line to be the strengthiest here, which is at the top surface. Oh, beautiful. That's one section. Let's get it in two sections. And then we'll take a third in just a moment. How big does a section need to be? Good question. The bigger it is, the texture-y and clunkier it'll be, right? Look at your guide underneath. Actually, let's do it with that comb, see if that gets a good visual on it. I find since it's so much hair at once, you really want to just pay attention to where that graduation sits. That's the thing about doing it in a bigger section is each time I make a stroke, I cut a lot more hairs. So I get a bigger texture, I get a bigger, like louder expansion, if you will. It's still soft, it still tucks in, it's still a nice grad. But the idea is to cut it from the bottom to the top so that all the little sharp pieces are kind of peeling down. They make a little bit more of a pointed, a sharp point, to me, if it's coming from the bottom to the top, because I'm leaving little arcs that jump up. Versus if I was cutting from the top of the section, I'd be cutting some of this stuff away, and I bet you it would more likely collapse. Like my ability to hold this razor. But drop this section back now. Get that out of the way better. And you can see like it's a really nice, even, still graduation. There's a little bit of like stuff that flips and whips off the bottom, and we can edit that in a bit. But for now, all I really want to see is if there's any spots that look too full, then when I grab them, elevate them, bring them back to middle, and just tap out some of that weight. But not all of it, just a little bit at a time. Tap out the weight from bottom to top or top to bottom. Just recognize that if I come from underneath and pull up, it'll elevate it. If I come from the top and push down, it'll decelerate it. Decelerate, delaminate. Just concentrate. Just kidding. There's my graduation. Step one done. I need to now work my way up through all of this hair and direct it back diagonally. But that sounds like a lot of work, so I'm going to do it in stop motion and then we'll check back in. Let's come back into some live motion. You can see back there's a disconnection happening. It's just from the ear. It goes diagonal back technically, but it works up along the hairline to where it's about a finger's width worth of hair at the hairline that goes from the break in the fringe to the top of the ear. And just to switch back to the razor here, this is where it was really structured. You can see the mannequin on the right has like a straight, strong line, which is how the video was cut. But essentially just imagine that same line going straight, then my outside guide right there, so that I can get a longer stroke. Now I'm using an actual blade of a razor, or actual razor, not just the blade. But I don't slide my fingers, I keep them locked in one spot, and I want to create an even like fan of soft texture that works along that front. It's disconnected to the back or the stuff that lives behind it. So once you cut that front frame, don't worry about this other stuff. Like don't try to like bring it all forward and connect it. The whole point is to have like a little drop that comes over that's different. If you connect it anywhere, drag it to this back and just make sure that you have, you know, the blend forward that you like. As far as density, I kind of like mine to be kind of airy and thin, so I'm going to keep that in the structure. Wetness is key when you're going to be cutting with the razor. Keep it wet, then direct it forward. You got the inside guide that's coming from the fringe here. Finger angle mirrors the section that you have, which is diagonal back. My stroke now is very long, so I kind of want to hold it like a pencil and even get, you know, like a 2 to 3 inch span on my stroke. I'm not trying to slide, my finger just did there, so I'm going to re-grab. That was where I slid, right there. So keep that length short, or maybe not, I shouldn't say short, but equal across that whole plane. Don't like stretch it longer because it gets funny. It likes to match the plane. Then it tucks in and gets a little bit slightly shorter toward that face frame. So it's a bob that opens up, and then when this stuff climbs forward, you can see it's longer. So it's like got these little tails that I think are cool. Actually, we have everything cut except for the top. It all gets directed diagonal forward to center again. And the idea is that if we start with our length in the middle, center, and create a guideline there, which now we can just essentially let all this hair drop over the top. Take a center guide, or we'll set a guide here, and direct it straight up to where it lives. Look at where the fringe comes from. And you can see that length at the fringe. And there goes a diagonal line that appeared at the top side of that fringe, which creates a guide. And you want that to be relatively long strokes now. So I'm no longer just holding the blade raw, but I'm picking it up and putting it into the actual razor so that I can get a longer stroke. If I'm holding just the blade, it's for my tighter strokes. Usually when I get into like holding the actual razor, which if you've seen my stuff before, I like that a lot, just holding the razor, because I like to feel it against the hair. But you can see the guide that shows up from the fringe underneath, and that's sort of your base template for your angle. Just like on the bottom, it works better to cut from underneath and then leave a little drape over the top. What I notice from this is if I do these horizontal lines and push them straight up to center and cut from underneath, meaning from the front to back, don't cut from back to front, but rather front to back. And look at that guide underneath, direct it, make sure you're getting it to center. I like to position the mannequin, you know, so where my body can go straight up over that top easily. If I have to push left or right, I tend to get it off a little bit. Right now, what I do is I just keep going back to center part in my imagination and making sure that my finger would be riding on the middle part all the way across above the top. And don't put this one necessarily all into one big brick when you're going to be cutting with a razor. You get too much texture. So right now I'm on like section 6 or 7. I didn't count. But the reality is that if the more you break it down, meaning like the more sections you take, the softer the impact will be, and the bigger and bulkier you pull it, the more like texture or big effect it'll have. Raised it up a little so that we can see this lower part, and you'll now see that drop because we took all that hair up. It has a bunch of length at the back. So you got a couple options, and we're gonna do 2 separate things here. Just so you can see 2 options, I have 2 ways to take this. First, grab it all and take it up diagonally, and sort of, now that we have that stencil underneath, you can just literally follow that exact line, cut from bottom to top. You see how long my stroke is as it gets toward this top surface? Now like my whole arm is wiggling. So then I'm getting shorter stroke at the bottom and then way longer stroke toward the top. And then that will just sort of dissolve or diffuse, I guess, some of the weight. And then once I get down to the bottom, some of these pieces individually, grab them. Just recognize that if I take the whole section and I sort of edit that whole section, it'll stay more as one. You see how that piece moves as a whole piece? But if I pick up individual pieces and cut them, then it'll more like individualize, and those pieces will be more apt to move around on their own. So it's not always like one or the other. If you want them to move together, take a sheet and edit that outside length, that little bottom length. And if I picked it up as a sheet, it'll more than likely move as a sheet. But if I pick them up individually, they'll more than likely move around individually. But you can course them left or right. So that's one option. And then once we do the stop motion bit on this side, I'll stop it and come back and do option 2 on the bottom. Okay, second way to trim and slim the bottom down is to take these pieces, and when you come over the top, you'll see the lengths underneath, and you're essentially going to match that length. Right? But when you do, fold through. I'm going to hold that hair straight down, and I'm going to cut from the top down, and I'm going to go little piece by little piece. Remembering what we just said in that last segment about when you go little piece by little piece, what do you get? Like, you get piece by piece. You see the pieces. So what I'm looking for in the secondary way really is going to itemize and like bring out a lot of independent movement. In that original bit, which was the original stop motion reel that I made, I moved it both. On the very bottom, I blunted it, and then as I got to these top pieces, I did this kind of movement. So I jumped back and forth between them to get like a mixed kind of result of those. I want some pieces that move like flaps, like right here behind the ear, I want it to move boldly like a flap, or like, like one piece, not like a flap. So I direct it, guide it over my finger with my comb, lay it down on top, and I can see the lengths underneath. And I want to put my blade to where it's striking on the top surface, so I'm holding it backwards, not palm to palm style, but flipped, pinch the tang, ring finger and tang, control it still, but your middle finger moves. And then you connect those dots with little punches so that the hair is getting hit from this side, everything being held in one force, directed around your finger and then distributed down, so that when you cut it, it crowns under and lays down and moves like one solid piece. But these basically are two different ways to do the same thing that we did on the other side, but the razor version needs these little technicalities to match. And so does the scissor. If by example, see, I'm striking these pieces from the top, so then the blade will kind of hit it and collapse it under. If it was an axe, it would make sense, right? But like, I mean, don't do that. But like, if I take now the scissor and instead of having the blade be striking the top surface, it was coming from the bottom surface, it would make those pieces flip up more. That's not wrong, it just is the way that it impacts. So if the blade's coming down and kind of continuously rounding under and everything's being held in one big solid piece, even though I'm pointing the blade at it per se to get texture in the angle, all the functions and all the strikes of that blade are the same, top to bottom. So like Vidal taught us, palm to palm. But because I'm holding it this way, I can stand at a different angle out to the edge, down behind, like rounded down behind my finger, and then even point cutting, staying exactly parallel with the grain just to add lightness. But now that piece will move as one unit because it was held as one unit, where the little individual pieces will move and itemize around because they were held as such when they were cut. So two separate ways to do the same thing, one with a razor, basically one with a scissor, and they kind of end up with identical elements. Like, is there little physicalities about them that could be different? Yeah. You know, on the outside surface, there's a little bit more texture and variation here, which is with my blade, but it's because I held the pieces so much more and got them basically all individually, except for the one just behind the ear. That held as a unit, so it doesn't flip and move around as much. But categorically, a butterfly bob means that the stuff that comes to the center or gets held up here in the middle, because it all gets held at one point. When it comes down, it opens up. So essentially that top is the butterfly element, and this is all the angles and everything that we used on it. So I mean, really, do I even need to be here when I bring this to the mannequin? To just let this air dry, I'll take the hair that lives from eyebrow, like inside the eyebrow links, left side or right side first, whichever one, but just kind of peel it down and under. So my comb is coming from above, and then I like wrap it down and around my finger and peel it together like a little ribbon. And then the left will push to the left and the right will push to the right, and then reach down beneath the eyebrow. So the stuff that lives from there to the ear is now going to flick out. So the fringe area goes under, and then the side area goes out. And this is just to make it look like uber shaggy. I like this shape to look kind of shaggy. So I flick them out, and then a lot of times I'll just come in from underneath and scrunch all together and sort of like let some natural things take place. Really, you just want the hairs to bind together, be wet enough and have some product on it to like create a unit together. The surface tension of the water combined with the hold of the product is what gives you that like good glue together. And then once you diffuse that, a lot of that activity will start to like emerge and come up. But as long as you've bound them together at first, then even if it kind of gets a little bit more, let's say, chaotic, they'll stick together, and at least those frizzy ends will have friends. All that stuff up, you're going to diffuse, but that's going to take about 20 minutes. I'm just going to do it real quick. I'll be right back. Well, we will. Look at that. Okay, so I got a little paste I got going in my hands, and I want to break up the cast that I got from a little bit of curl product. But I want to do it with like kind of an oil base, but I like to do it with something stiffer so that it creates a little bit more resilience in the curl rather than break it down. Like you want I like a pasty sort of styling kind of, and if it's too much wet for you, you can always spray just a little bit of dry shampoo or a little bit of texture spray or anything. I'll just spray a little bit of that on my hand. And you'll watch my hand sort of mat out. That's just dry shampoo. And if you don't believe me, maybe you can compare the other hand and see just the difference of shine. So what I want to do is like put some pieces that have really shiny, especially because this is a brunette mannequin. So it's always hard to get them to pop off. So I'll put some pieces that are really shiny. Then I take that other wax and work it on the other pieces that are matte in between. And then that gives me more of a definition in my finishes. So if you're going to take pictures of it, you have to think about how much light's going to hit it and reflect back to the lens, and then use the other spots, and maybe even in some of the deeper portions, just putting dry down in there, and it makes them jump off from one another. So I got a shiny outside surface with a matte right beside it on both sides, and it'll make that piece pop. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in video format, but it really shows up in photos, especially, I think, because the photos having more time to focus the light than the video per se. So that's kind of cool. I actually just want to run the other part of it. Go ahead, Maestro, and run that other video just so we can recap it again. Here's all the steps that we did. These are, of course, the two shapes. The one that it makes this time we used with the razor, so it's longer, right? But it's all the same components that you see in the video and that you see on this mannequin here. The difference in this one is that we did it with the razor. And so where we had these blunt strength lines before, even though these were cut with like I think that was an Invisiblend, a toothed shear, it's still like pretty strong straight lines. This one was cut with more of a razor the whole time. We did use a scissor here and there, but I also just used it in a way that it would represent a razor. So if you wanted to get away with just cutting the hair, maybe the client doesn't allow you to use the razor, you can still go about it and get everything the exact same look, but just use it with the scissor and try some of the dynamic that we showed. Again, this one, it's called Butterfly Bob. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Sam Villa. That was a 6-inch classic shear that I used. That tends to be my baby through and true. I also used the razor, which I would grab those and show them to you, but I didn't set them in front of me here. But samvia.com has all those things. A bunch of fantastic and new exciting stuff coming next year, and even through the rest of this year. We still have lots lined up. So hope to see you at an event, at a class. Like and follow this guy, Sam Villa. If you're seeing his channel for the first time, I'm Roger Molina here. You can go check out my channels. I like to focus on Instagram and TikTok right now, but I do have stuff on YouTube, just shorties. But thank you so much for sharing your time with me and your space. I hope this is something that you can use. And send me photos, send me pictures, tag me in your work if you like it. And make sure you give a shout out, comment to Sam Villa, tell him thank you for supporting education. He's the guy that's making this possible. The reason why I'm doing this is because he makes space for me to do it. And so show some love, and thank you very much for your love and being here. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.